person stand, please, in invocation of pledge to our flag. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to be able to convene this evening for this meeting of the Public Service Authority. We ask that you would touch each heart and mind, and that we would be able to work for the betterment of our community, for the betterment of this board, and for this great community that we have, and for the citizens in it, that we will be able to offer the services as best that we can for our citizens and our communities. We ask your blessing upon all of those who work on this board and these boards, and for the employees and all of those service members in our community that help make and ensure that we're able to sleep safe and sound at night. All areas of it that we serve, and that those that work to help make sure that we have comfortable and safe sleeping nights. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record reflect that Mayor Morrissey and Mayor Parrott absent, although members are present. And at this time, we'll call for approval of our meeting minutes.
Make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes.
Have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion on those minutes? None. Call for vote. Chairman, yes. Next, presentation of PSA activity from Joey Cason.
Commissioners, I just want to give you a brief update and an overview of some of the activity that's taking place to know that the park is vibrant. We have this program that runs on a daily basis. Shoni, what's the rough number of folks that attend that?
Average about 70.
About 70 seniors that are in here every morning. It's a very active time for our facility. They have a great workout. In fact, I probably need to get in there and start working out with them. But the building is at full speed at that time during the day. Let's see if I can get this to work. We've had a ton of children playing and signing up and participating in our football program. It's in my report. Right now we have 599 children that are playing and cheerleading this fall with our program. We have folks that we've started having staff folks that are just taking a look around the community when they're out and about in the parks and seeing if there's activity going on, and we're beginning to see that we have activity in most of our parks on a regular basis. Obviously, the Sheriff's Department utilizes the track for training on a regular basis here, whether they're working out or have other planned activities. Have kids, and if you came through the lobby, you saw we have kids every afternoon here from after school, from over at the high school, and they keep Shoni busy, making sure they're not doing anything they're not supposed to be doing. We have 2 swim teams that are participating in the pool, and I've got some information in the report, and I'll come back to that. But right now we have over 70 children that are participating as swim team participants on the 2 different teams. Our gymnastics program, that's another thing I'm going to highlight in just a second, but there's children that participate in rec programs, and then approximately 25 children that participate in gymnastics, and then another 20 that are in competitive cheerleading. We've had some work done as far as the upholstery and the fitness area, so we've cleaned that up. We had a great opening day. Commissioner Clark, thank you for coming out Saturday. We had a great opening day, including a color guard, which was one of the first times they'd done that, and those young folks just did a phenomenal job in presenting the colors. I can't say that I was a very good passer, but as I told the children when I was throwing some of the first passes out, I was a lineman. I was not a quarterback in high school. And that kind of gives you some idea as far as the pictures. There is a couple of other things I wanted to point out. I marked those on your report. We have asked the art students at the school to basically consider possibly creating a new logo for us, and there's a contest going that hopefully will culminate this week with approximately 20 different things that the young people are presenting. So we'll see if we find anything interesting. If we do find something, we'll present it to you for future consideration for change. I did note that we had 599 children playing. The other major thing, well, two things, I did meet with Dr. Harden and Coach Coffey concerning the arrangements that we have, and Dr. Harden was very amenable to us working together to try to plan something for the two boards in the future, and said he'd be more than willing to help facilitate that. The main thing that I think that I would like for you to be in thought about is right now we have 3 programs that utilize our facilities. The soccer club utilizes our facility. The 2 swim teams utilize our facility, and the gymnastics group here utilizes the gymnastics gym. I'm not certain on the numbers, but I'm pretty close. I'm sure that the Boomers and the other swim team, they're going to generate over $5,000 a month in revenue, and they're paying us about, all told, about $600 a month as far as what they're covering for their expenses. The soccer club is basically generating probably $20,000 to $30,000 per season, maybe more, maybe less. I'm not sure of that. I'm going to give to them in the next couple of weeks, and they are not paying for the utilization of the soccer complex. Basically, they're getting that gratis. And then gymnastics, we just found out this afternoon, is generating around $117,000 a year for their team gymnastics, and that's another revenue structure that we're not getting any revenue from. So one of the things I would like for y'all to consider is in the future directing me whether or not you would like me to work towards new contracts with those folks so that we're actually a little bit more even as far as the revenue and our expenses, or whether or not we might even want to consider taking those types of programs on in the future so that we have all that revenue. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Joey, questions?
I do. You mentioned the 3 units that are using our facilities. They're not sponsored by us.
No, sir. They're standalone programs.
I strongly think that we should reevaluate that situation.
I totally agree.
I'm not telling you which direction to go, but I think it needs to be reevaluated. And I don't think we should be in the business of providing heated pools and soccer fields to groups that don't have anything to do with PSA without being some compensation.
Yes, sir.
So all options would be on the table as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Great report, and I concur with Commissioner Starling that we do need to look into that and ensure that, you know, it's a better program run revenue-wise, because it takes that to run, you know, the entire program. So we will, you know, look at that.
I'll have a report for y'all at our next meeting that gives you, well, the exact cost, well, as close as we can get to exact cost, and also what they're generating revenue-wise and what my recommendation would be for possibly a new contract with those organizations.
So we can consider that.
Yes, sir.
I think pickleball would fall under that same category, but I see you got it revenue neutral
Yes, sir.
at a minimum.
Yes, sir.
And to me, that would be pretty close to the minimum.
Right.
Revenue neutral.
That would be ideal in my opinion.
I concur. I think everything we need to look at being at least revenue neutral.
And I'd like to go one step further and say these programs are not the only thing that are on the table for looking at.
Yes, sir.
The entire outfit is on the table.
And I will tell you, Commissioner, that we, in the last month, and Nancy can confirm this, but we basically have told all management staff that if they don't know how to do cost analysis for what their area is, we're going to teach them how to do that. And before we present another budget, every staff person that has any supervisory responsibility will know exactly what it costs us to run their program.
I recognize you can't fix all of this in the first 3 weeks that you're here, but we're working toward it.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
The
Next item is a presentation of finalized PSA budget for approval. Nancy.
I provided to y'all earlier today, this morning, an electronic version of the revised budget. At the last meeting on September 5th, we discussed some items that needed to be tweaked and other areas that really needed some increases. So the revised budget that you have before you is about $200,000 more than the one presented at the beginning of the month. But when all is said and done, it is about $150,000 more than the fiscal year 18 budget that we were pseudo working over. So, and the increases came from, we discussed some salary adjustments, so that's included in there. We've included a space position for a program manager in administration. I added in propane to heat the pool because we do heat it. We're still obviously working out how that's going to be paid for, but we do need to include about a $35,000 budget line for that. And also in the Parks Department, we added a 2.25 FTE in that department. And that is, we reorganized some of the expenses between the departments, but overall that's where the main increases are. And the only other item that is still under discussion is under the revenue, intergovernmental revenues, the $36,000 management fee paid from St. Mary's. I had the impression that it was a management fee that the PSA was receiving to process their payroll and administer the HR for the Aquatic Center. There seems to be some needed discussion in that. The city of St. Mary's believes that it's one of the employees that they're paying for, but that needs to be sorted out a bit. But at this point, to me, it appears that we're processing their payroll and managing their HR for no additional cost. And we're not receiving any revenue from the Aquatic Center for that. So, but other than that, there's no additional changes to the budget, which brings the total budget to $3,191,176. So we are requesting approval of that budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as stated.
Second.
Motion by the Chairman, Strongline, second by Commissioner. Okay, no discussion. Motion and second, discussion.
Nancy,
Yes.
as we just talked with Joey about reevaluating some programs that are
Yes.
costing us money now, that perhaps we can at least get to revenue neutral.
Yes.
That would allow us to reduce this budget by those expenses.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
It would reduce the local government and the county funding.
the
Yes.
issue with the aquatic center, I mean, they simply have to pay a management fee. We're not going to spend our time managing that without being compensated for it.
Joey, myself, Mr. Morrissey, and the finance director of the city of St. Mary's are meeting on October 11th to discuss it further.
Well, I would put that in the same category we've been talking about, that everything's on the table. And if we are not at least budget neutral, I'd say we get out of that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I'm happy to do it, but not at an expense to the PSA.
Yes. Okay.
So all of these things could affect our budget positively.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
So when I make a motion to approve this budget, I do it knowing that this may be a little more than what we actually need. And I'm sure as you get a handle on cost analysis, that'll be an adjustment too. It could be up.
Right. Yes, sir.
Not necessarily down.
I feel strongly that we'll see our revenue that we're generating with that increase as soon as we look at some renegotiations on these contracts. Yes, sir.
So I do support this budget, but I want to be clear that there could be some adjustments during the year.
Absolutely. Hopefully there will be some adjustments, positive ones.
I hope there are some adjustments.
I hope so too.
That's all.
Commissioner.
I'm very happy with the turn down the budget. What we've done. Thank you. Thank
You're
y'all
very
for all
welcome.
the hard work, the staff.
If I can make one added comment, also, we have mentioned the right-of-way mowing and mosquito control, both have to be reevaluated.
They have to be
And make
reevaluated
sure
as
that we
well.
are charging the proper amount for that.
And that is noted in the budget, the amount that we're requiring, or that we believe it costs to fund it, and what the county has approved. And in most cases, the county is paying less than what we could operate this for. So if they're more than willing to
Well, no
discuss this
different
with us.
than their products here. If we're doing it at an expense to PSA, we need to stop doing that.
Mhm.
It's got to be at least budget neutral.
Absolutely.
So have y'all started any of the assessments of any of these items?
Actually, Nancy has been talking with mine on that, and I don't know how far, and it's with Joey too, and he's got to decide what it's really costing. That's the problem, we don't know what it's really costing. When the numbers we were given are wrong.
And so, I mean, there we do need, that assessment needs to be done so that we can make that decision and see where we are.
But in 3 weeks, he can't do it all,
No.
or however long, but we're working in that direction. And if the county's not paying their fair share, then we'll either pay our fair share or PSA will quit doing it.
Thank you. So with that discussion being made, call for the
I'm not really sure. Vote for it.
okay. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next is, SPLOS 8 discussion. You gonna hear that? All right,
Yeah.
Joey.
I've included in the back of where the executive director's report is. There's a preliminary list of SPLOS projects in there. Some of those are carryover projects from the prior SPLOS. Some of those are things that we've identified. There's no major changes in this, and this is just a preliminary list. And we have a pretty good feel for what's been done in the past, and I will make sure in the next few weeks before our next meeting, or sooner if y'all direct me to, that we have costs associated with all of these, so that we'll know what we would like to see if possible when we go forward with that SPLOS. Mayor, the one thing that we are looking at changing that we've added in here that's completely new, Mr. Davis had recommended that at Catfish Park, that playground equipment basically be done like the rest of the communities are having those parts updated as far as the stuff that's concerned to be making more safety. I feel like there's still some liability concerns in that park even if we put it in. And my recommendation there is that we look at taking the old stuff down there and then in the new SPLOS, putting new playground equipment in that as a gateway into the city of Kingston. So that's one of the things on our list. But this is a preliminary list for you to consider, and if there's things that you'd like me to add or things that you'd like me to delete, I'd be more happy to do so.
Okay. Thanks for.
All right.
You are suggesting 2.7 at this point. Is that
No, sir,
correct?
that's approximately what we would receive in this current SPLOS. And so if we are allotted the same amount in the next SPLOS, then I would want us to have projects that would equal that total.
Okay, but 2.7 is what you think you want to ask for, is that correct?
Well, unless you want to give me more, Commissioner, we'll take all we can get, but I feel like that's what's been fair in
Well,
the past, so.
We've got our entire SPLOS discussions on hold, waiting on PSA.
Yes, sir.
To get some issues worked out. And
Right.
This is an issue that we need worked out.
I can tell you these projects would total more than 2.7.
Yeah. What I'm thinking is, why don't we say 3?
Even. Yes, sir.
And then we'll start our SPOS discussions back up with a number of 3 for PSA.
Okay?
Does that sound reasonable to you two?
It's that, I mean, based upon what you have here, you're saying, you know, you got 2-7, but you think 3 would be the ballpark of what you got, what the recommendation on?
Mayor, I can tell you what would be different is I will bring you, when you say 3 million, I will bring you specific projects that will total 3 million. This list may be more than that, but I will not bring you a list that's more than that. So we'll go in now and prioritize this list and begin to prepare costs for that, and we'll come up with a total of $3 million.
I think the board would
comfortable with 3 million.
I think the board would want to see what the actual
Yes, sir.
cost is with the recommendations. And then if you know, if you can't meet that, then we'll have to
Right.
come back off of that.
Working off the prior SPOS documentation for PSA, it was like a normal SPOS, but we'll have you pretty firm numbers on what these projects would cost exactly, and we'll make sure that we've got a list that's in that $3 million range.
Okay, what I really need is basically a request from PSA so that we can start our SPOS negotiations again. We can say 3, that doesn't mean you're gonna get 3.
I understand.
The SPOS committee may decide that 2.5 is what you're
Yes,
gonna get, or something of that nature. But I do need a starting point, and if you've got 2.7 here, so I'm assuming you're comfortable with 3.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to take that as the initial request, and then, of course, the PSA committee will evaluate that and decide what they're going to do. And before we get into the actual conversations, we'll need your itemized list.
Yes, sir. And I can get that over.
And that would allow us to put back onto the SPOS project. So I'd like to see us accept that through as a beginning number.
Is this also, I know this is a working document, but is this also going to be like the priorities, kind of prioritize?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll have them prioritized. There's several things on here that have been on former SPOS that we're carrying over, like the gymnasium floor and those types of things. But between myself, Nancy, Buck, and Bruce, Shawnee, we'll make sure that we have a comprehensive, prioritized list with actual numbers. And I'll work on the 3 million ceiling, unless you want to give me 4.
Well, we can say more, but we'll be clear.
Yes, sir. I understand. The only other document that's in that report, just while I'm here, is I did include a list of the special projects that we'll be working on during the winter. And I did this to kind of help you understand where right-of-way mowing, when they shift from their major mowing projects during the cutting season, this is where they come in and where Nancy has budgeted 25% of their expense. And so there's a list of things that we will work within our current budget, but that will begin to get done as soon as we kind of begin to wind down our cutting season. And that, if there's anything else that you see that we might need to add to that, I'd be more than happy to add to that list as well. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner.
I'm good. Karen, I'm going to look at it.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to take the surplus, I guess you made that. You got that, Nancy.
Okay, before you is a surplus list of really just all broken equipment, broken tables. I just wanted it to be very transparent before we actually disposed of anything, that anything we're going to dispose of, we will bring before the board, just so you're aware of it. If it's anything that we feel is saleable, we'll try to sell it in an appropriate manner. If we have a great deal of stuff, we could do an auction similar to the county, or maybe even piggyback off one of the purchasing officer's auctions that she has at the county. But in this case, it's just several items are broken, and we just want you to be aware that we'd like to surplus them, so that's what we're requesting.
Make a motion to surplus these items.
A motion,
Second.
motion and a second, and a discussion on that. Not called the vote.
How do you want to dispose of it? Auction?
Well, some of these I don't think are really saleable.
I won't think you want to put this on gov.com.
No, I don't think so either. I would either think it's a landfill or
Pile it outside for
put it in the trash.
5 days and let people
And people could always just come and take it.
bid on it. I think
Great
some of
idea.
this is 50-cent stuff.
Mhm.
We just need to make sure that we do it properly.
I think just the computers, I was going to get with the IT director at the county to see the proper way to dispose of computers. Whether he may need to take out the hard drive, but I'll get with him on that.
I think the main goal here is just to get it off the books.
Correct. And these are smaller items, they're not capital assets, but it's still inventory items that at one point had a value that, I just wanted to be transparent that we're trying to get rid of some things, but didn't want to just have it disappear without it coming to the board first for approval.
So, in the event that you don't get rid of this stuff, that it's saying bottle sale, whatever, where you just don't trash it.
Yes, yes, sir.
Call for vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is discussion of MOU verification of method of splitting funding between county, cities, and PSA.
I circulated a draft of the 2004-2009 intergovernmental agreement between the PSA, the cities, and the county. At Mayor Marcy's request, paragraph 6 that you have before you was the meat of the matter. And the initial thought was the existing agreement had in there that we were to go on the tax digest of the county. The alternate language that you see there in yellow has to do with the decennial census. And there's going to be a significant difference in how that's handled going forward. If this is an agreement that you all enter into where a decennial census determines the share, remember that is decennial. That means every 10 years. The census is held every 10 years. Populations change. I know that Nancy has done a lot of work at looking at which municipalities are using the facilities more than the others, those kinds of things. So that is the major difference, I think, between these two. Digest is going to change annually. The digest changes from year to year. Property values fluctuate. More development comes in, more property is added to the digest, or it's increased in the digest. So that number is something that I think more closely matches your budget cycle. That method of determining what the budget numbers are going to be may be a better way of doing business, but again, it's up to the board to determine that. The rest of this language, again, I didn't reinvent the wheel. The only other addition that I would be concerned about, and Nancy and I have not had an opportunity to review this, was insurance, whether or not we wanted to put an insurance clause in there. Given what has transpired, or what we've determined has transpired in the last few years, we may want to add some bond language or some insurance language into the intergovernmental agreement so that we're insulated and insured against acts like we've encountered going forward. Any questions?
What are you asking us to do at this point?
Well, this is for your information at this point.
Okay.
My suggestion has been, and I'll reiterate it, is that this board, as well as the city councils, the county commission, the balance of the county commission, and the Board of Education need to come together and have a summit regarding PSA funding going forward, division of responsibilities for PSA facilities, and, for example, the school board intersect. I mean, all these are going to affect budgets down the road. It's going to affect insurability. It's going to affect our ability to defend against lawsuits in the event that someone's injured on properties, those kinds of things, need to be hammered out. And I think this is a good framework for an agreement, but it needs to be fleshed out, and that work session that I just proposed would be a good place to do that. It would be similar in scope to a SPLOST meeting. You know, when y'all get together and determine which SPLOST project is going to be, it's going to be the same type of meeting. You know, super work session is what I would recommend.
I think that's going to be absolutely necessary. And I'm not talking about a 5 o'clock work session. I think we need a 9 o'clock in the morning work session. And plan on all day, stay there and get this worked out. And any other issues that we need to discuss at that time. I've got some items here that I think need adjustment. As far as item 6 goes, we've already voted to go by population in the budget split. But we don't have the support of some of the city councils on that. We've got to decide what we're going to do. I'd like to see some consistency in the way we split things. We, for the last few years at least, have split everything on population. So to me, that's the way we probably should go here. However, if we want to go by digest, I can work with that. But I want us to go forward with digest on our other splits also. Just to be consistent on how we share funding.
Well, one thing to recall is that you all are operating without an intergovernmental agreement at this point, so that it's not a permanent fix that you all voted for the population split. That's, as Nancy and I described this, it's a mandate fixing situation even with the budget. You know, we're trying to get back up on our feet. We're trying to take care of the immediate needs now. This is a framework for going forward for the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, one of the reasons we're having some financial problems, just one of the reasons, is that we were only building 15% of our budget. I mean, 85% of our budget. We were leaving 15% on the table.
Right.
So you take 15% for the last probably 10 years, that's quite a bit of money, and that is part of our financial difficulties, is that we simply weren't building what we were supposed to be building. So we've got to fix that. I'd like to see a date set for a work session.
I would strongly encourage that.
What do you think you'll be able to get back with us on that date to sit down and
It's up to you all.
contacting each entity and getting an occurrence on that?
And just recall that I'm operating under my funding that should be paid by the county next week. I received that as an advance for the offer and compromise. So when I receive the quarterly or monthly funding next week, it'll be $100,000 short. So until we could work out all this, I can't put in for a line of credit because the line of credit is likely to be based on a tax anticipation fund. And all the entities and governments would have to agree on their percentage in that process, which would tie into the intergovernmental agreement.
Trevor, you want to set a date up and we'll just be there?
But Nancy contact everyone and see what, you get some concurrence from everybody that needs to be there, work through that and then get back to us.
Maybe
Find out when there's
I'm
going,
sorry, I just can't.
find out when there is going to
Hearing is the
be,
first time thing.
when it's going to be an adequate time. You know, if you're talking about the school board, school is in session, so I know they can meet their time, etc. I think I'm pretty flexible. So one of those other entities can get with you and you can roll a date. And that's what
Would
we're.
this also include the councils?
Yes.
say again.
This would also include the city councils?
Yes.
The council members and
And commissioners.
staff, okay.
Everybody that's interested needs to be there.
We'll start working on that tomorrow.
Good.
Chairman, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
As to the next line item, the executive session, that was entered in error. We did have the employee matters that was discussed about right sizing on salaries, and I think Ms. Howard's here, if y'all have any questions for her on that.
I'll come up with it. Myself, Mr. Kazin, and Ms. Gonzalez all met it'll be 2 weeks this Friday. We made all the salary adjustments, looked at compensation, looked at market, looked at date of hire, and made all the recommended adjustments. That would be in your current budget, so it should get everybody in line to where they need to be based on experience and the compensation market. So we have all the forms ready to go, and everything has been accomplished. So questions? And that was based on what we discussed in the last executive session.
Thank you. And also, somebody have the ordinance. So, not, make a motion for adjournment.
Are there public comment?
Any comments from the public?
Terry Lander, 1929 Osborne Road, St. Mary's, Georgia. Appreciate the PSA board, and I know it's been a rough summer, and so appreciate Mr. Casey being in the executive director position now. And since you've been talking about splosh and budgets and everything, had a chance to attend the Governor's Conference on Tourism just about 2 weeks ago, and one of their pillars for tourism is outdoor recreation. And that just sort of leapfrogs me into the idea of keeping Gum Branch Nature Reserve high on the attraction. And so please, when you're considering your splash vote, please put Gum Branch Nature Reserve on there also. I brought Mr. Joey Cason his own personal copy of the report that was done by the Nature Conservancy for Gum Branch and the inventories and those kind of things there. I'll give that to him. And also, the next round of grants will be available from the Coastal Regional Commission that are specific for the Coastal Georgia Greenway. PSA applied for one last year, and I don't believe, I talked to Julie Hager, and they asked for an extension on that last year's grant, so those funds were never used. So possibly that would help out there in Gum Branch also, because it has to be used on the Coastal Georgia Greenway project. The next round of grants are available to the Coastal Georgia Greenway also, or from the Coastal Regional Commission. Too many acronyms. Coastal Regional Commission, and I'd like to see the PSA apply for one of those also. It's money that can only be used in our 6 coastal counties, and so if we don't apply for it, it goes to somebody else. That's number one. Secondly, a side conversation with Senator Liggett. He's going to try to increase the budget line item for that funding to the CRC up to $500,000 for 2019-2020, and once again, just for future projects, that might be a funding source available. The other grant that's coming up, it's going to be January 2019, is the Department of Natural Resources Recreational Trails Grant, and that one is up to $100,000 also. More grants to be used there, and still offsetting that budget. But it takes some effort, it takes some work, and I'm glad to work with the PSA and the board and those folks there who are interested in those kind of things. They've got a lot of data for those, and that we've been successful with Recreational Trails Grant in the past. So 2 funding opportunities I would hate to see lost, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Jeremy Spencer from St. Louis. The only budget I had was the proposed budget that was given to me from the county attorney. I saw in there to be determined from the amounts from all 3 cities and the county. I guess my concern is tonight we're passing a budget without those items in there, I'm assuming, because I don't have the budget that you have. I have the proposed budget. So my question is that line item, that 3.1 million, is that going to change if you guys decide on which population or digest situation you're going to move forward with? If so, what are we looking at? What kind of change are we looking at?
You're asking if the budget will change depending
Right,
on
because
how
it
we
says
fund
to be determined in those line items on the proposed budget that I was given.
On the what?
On the proposed budget.
But there's a line item for local government funding, which is
Mhm.
1.6 million.
Okay, so that's what you're
What would not
assuming.
be
Okay.
determined is what percentage each city and the county are gonna pay out of that.
Okay.
That has to be determined by the intergovernmental agreement.
All right, so the 1.6 is based on what number? Like what, prior knowledge?
It's based on the entire budget, and from that, we take revenue that the PSA generates, and anything left over, the cities and the county subsidize.
Okay.
And that's what makes up the 1.6 million.
All right, so basically that's a best guess number based on previous knowledge of finance.
Yes, I'd like to think it was more than a guess, but yes,
Okay.
it's working with what we had as revenue from last year, what we predict and project the expenses to be during this year.
Okay, my last question is, y'all are going for a revenue neutral proposal for budgets for each division within the PSA. Do we have that already done, or is there a skeleton for that? Because it looks like we've got a skeleton proposed budget now. Do we have a divisional budget for each section of the PSA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, to answer that question, revenue neutral will be on things that basically, for example, right-of-way mowing is something that we contract with the county on. In the past, it wasn't clear what was being asked from the county and how it was budgeted here. But going forward, it'll be very clear the number, whether the county wanted to take it back over or it stay here. On the programs such as, for example, gymnastics that's taking place right now, no one that was here had ever really understood exactly how much they were generating. And so now, as of today, we know that, and what I will do is work to create a contract with them so that we will know what our cost is, and they will either agree to basically meet us at our cost, or we will determine if we're going to offer gymnastics in some other manner. So the programs now, like for example, football, which is something that you and I spoke about, that program, unless the commissioners decide and the mayors decide, will continue to be something that's subsidized, and I don't anticipate us currently raising our registration fees to make that something that's totally revenue neutral. So that will be a program that we work with the local governments to provide additional funding, but we will know before the new budget, the next budget comes in, we'll know exactly what it cost us for a child to play a sport with us.
Okay, and just piggybacking into the football discussion, are those equipment pieces are going to show up line item as to what's been reconditioned, what's been repaired, what's been bought?
Well, and that's one of the things that you had asked me about, and I told you I would basically include you in the working of that, and I've already talked with Kid about that, and we will include you in anything that we do there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Any comments from board members? So, okay. Call for motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion, second, discussion, if not, call the vote.